Okay, well, thank you, Chandradasa. One of the things myself and Chandradasa and myself found ourselves talking about yesterday was Vivana Prabha, who was an order member in San Francisco. I lived in San Francisco for 8 years. And we were both good friends with her, and she, she died of cancer about 10 years ago now, which it seems unbelievable that it was 10 years. But anyway, and 2 years before that, I was on retreat with her, and we were doing a Buddha field retreat together. She'd come over from the States, and we were doing a month-long Buddha field retreat together. And it was on that retreat actually that she started to get some symptoms, and when she went back to America, got diagnosed, and then she had another couple of years, I think. Anyway, we were talking about her, so I still, well, I'm sure we both still miss her. Lots of people miss her. She was quite an extraordinary woman. I think there is some of her stuff on the Buddhist Center online. It's definitely worth looking for. She was very, yeah, well, hard to explain if you didn't know her, but she was one of these people that was unreservedly themselves, as it were, quite a loud American in a way, but also very kind of sensitive in another way. Anyway, she was very extraordinary. Great loss to us all, and particularly the people in San Francisco. Anyway, on this retreat that I was doing in Buddha field with her, one after she was doing a session, and one session she came in and she did this poem, so in remembrance to her, and also it became one of my favorite poems, really. Or I say my favorite poems, most in relation to teaching. I'm going to start with that. It's like Guna X. It's it's I'm not sure if it's Norwegian, Swedish, of modernist, Swedish modernist. Anyway. Black image, framed in silver, worn to shreds by kisses. A black image, framed in silver, worn to shreds by kisses. All around the image, the white silver, worn to shreds by kisses. The very metal, worn to shreds by kisses. Framed in metal, the black image, worn to shreds by kisses. Oh, the darkness, worn to shreds by kisses. The darkness in our eyes, worn to shreds by kisses. All we wished for, worn to shreds by kisses. All we never wished for, kissed and worn to shreds by kisses. All we escaped, worn to shreds by kisses. All we wish for, kissed and kissed again. One of the main features of meditation is something we repeat, isn't it? Again and again and again. Some of us, every day or most days, we'll sit down and do our practice, and like this simple practice of being aware of the breath or loving kindness, whatever practice it is, and so it has a characteristic of repetition, doesn't it? Repeat things. And quite often when we meditate, particularly if we start going a little bit deeper, which in a way comes about when we begin to relax within the structure of the practice and within the structure of the posture, start to relax our, for most of us these days, rather overactive mind, overactive thinking mind. When we start to relax that, quite often start contacting material that seems quite familiar. Maybe for many times the same kind of material seems to appear. I'm sure most of you have had that experience, and that quite often it can be a little bit disheartening. You think, oh, I thought I'd dealt with that. I thought that had been put to bed, as it were. It's slightly because we have rather a misunderstanding of the psyche, I think. Psyche isn't linear, really, events that happen, like, things that happen to us, strong experiences that happen to us, just remain in the psyche, don't they? Anyway, this same material might come up again and again, and so it can seem a bit frustrating. I think one way of looking at this phenomena is to think that there's something there that still wants attention in some way or other, and that the story we've made up around it, although it might be to some extent the best we can do from the ego's perspective, is not adequate from the main body of our psyche, if you like. It still feels it hasn't quite been heard in the way that it wants to be heard. It hasn't quite been accepted or encountered in the way that it needs to be. It reminds me of that poem, Worn to Shreds by Kisses, and I sort of mentioned a bit in passing, I think a couple of days ago, that when we get this image of the Buddha sitting under the Bodhi tree and he's assailed by the hordes of Mara, daimonic forces of the psyche, is probably the way we would sort of interpret this these days. He pervades them with love, yeah. Pervades them with thoughts of love, you know, this basic attitude. So this gives us a kind of methodology, I think, to work with material when we meditate. What we're trying to do is just, as far as possible, maintain the posture. The posture is a posture that potentially expresses love. You know? You might think of it as a kind of muscular, physical thing, but it's not really a physical thing. It's a kind of gesture. We're making a gesture through the posture, and it's a gesture of openness. You know? What we're trying to do. We shouldn't get to, obviously, it's great if you've got a really good posture that's really comfortable, etc., etc. But actually, posture is really expressing an attitude. Yeah, it's expressing an attitude of openness to experience. Yeah. It's also obviously expressing a kind of calmness and solidity as well. Yeah, and this is the main thing that we're doing as a meditator. We're trying to establish a kind of field, an open field of awareness that will allow this material to move through us. We're not holding it down. We're not trying to rationalize it away. We're not even trying to necessarily understand it or explain it. We're trying to just let it have its feeling within this field of open, loving awareness. Yeah. I'm not suggesting that this is necessarily easy to do, but it is something that with this repetition, when we make this commitment to sitting regularly and attending to the basics of sitting, yeah, and I hope it's kind of come across a little bit what some of those basic elements in sitting are, and not so much the application of a particular technique, which of course might be very useful. It might be very useful to do your mindfulness of breathing with its 4 stages or its metta bhavana with 5 stages or whatever it is. That might be extremely useful, and it gives you some sort of coherent structure to work with. But there's something under that. The foundation of that is the foundation of meditation isn't really an application of a particular technique. Foundation is being present, really, isn't it? And we're always present to something. Yeah? And what I've been suggesting here is that we're present to the world. We're making a gesture in relation to the world. A gesture is a communication, isn't it? There was an interesting little snippet on the radio yesterday or a day before. There's some research that they've done with other primates. They did it right across the board with chimps and orangutans, and they all make gestures. They have quite an extensive vocabulary of gestures. But what they found was that when they showed these films of these animals, these primates communicating with one another through gesture. Over, I think there's 50% of the human beings watching these films could interpret these gestures. So they were suggesting actually that language was originally gestural, came from gesture before we had words. You know, kind of makes sense, really. So when we sit, we're making a fundamental gesture towards the world, as it were. So in this reciprocal relationship of the world. And one of the things we're trying to move towards is this appreciation that the world supports us. Of course, this doesn't mean our life or our world is perfect or always supports us as we would wish it would, but nevertheless it supports us, isn't it? You know, from we come, we're in the womb, aren't we? Before we're born, we're in our mother's womb, and we're in this environment that provides everything that we need to grow and live when we're inside the mother. And then we're born, and of course we enter the world. And just like our mother, in a way, the world provides everything we need. And I'm talking about on a very basic level, you know, air, water, food, etc., etc. But it's very easy to lose this sense of both how interdependent we are, how we're always dependent on the world. And we might have this idea of asserting ourselves and overcoming and all that, but actually we always remain totally dependent upon the world, whether we like it or not. And this isn't a bad thing. It just means we're intimately woven into the world. We're part of the world. And when we have this sort of appreciation, this simple appreciation for the world then becomes a support for us. Yeah. So we have this basic thing in meditation that we're coming into this relationship with the world. And at least when we're sitting quietly, hopefully in a pleasant environment, you know, we can have that sense. We can have the sense of the sky and the earth and the other beings, the other living things in the world. We have a sense of a part of that, you know. And this is a kind of a fundamental foundation when we sit, and we can relax. With practice, we can learn to relax our grasping, you know. I mean, one simple way of understanding meditation is that we're trying to relax our tendency to grasp, yeah, our craving. And at least for the time we're meditating, we're just trying to appreciate things as they are and allow whatever's happening to be sufficient in itself. You know, might not be perfect, it might not be quite what our ego wants. Actually, just to appreciate and allow the experience to be sufficient, you know. Just to relax into the situation as it is for a while. And a relaxing into ourselves is also a relaxing into the world. You know? because we're kind of a microcosm of the macrocosm, as it were. We are part of the world, and this idea of wanting to be, wanting to see the true nature of things is not separate from seeing our own true nature. Yeah. The sort of introversion we might imagine meditation to be opens up into the world. Yeah. Because in the way we're trying to experience ourselves, we're not trying to experience ourselves from our ego perspective. We're trying to experience ourselves from a deeper and broader perspective where we are part of reality itself. It's not reality, it's something outside of us. You know? It's not inside or outside of us. It's just reality is everything, isn't it? And the closest bit of reality to you is you, isn't it? That's the bit we start with, but that naturally will open into the rest, you know, open into the rest of reality, as it were. Anyway. So have patience with your practice and try not to bring your sort of craving for a special experience into practice, or to be special into a practice, but just allow yourself to be who you are in the moment, you know, with a full appreciation of that. And keep the fundamentals. When you get lost in thought, you've narrowed down, haven't you? Collapsed into a particular aspect of yourself, the ego aspect of yourself. But you can always just, on a very simple level, just remember the world around you, remember your body, remember your breath, and remember the posture. You're just putting back together the fundamentals of a practice, the fundamentals of being rather than doing. We shouldn't make our meditation into a doing. No, this isn't a very satisfactory distinction, is it? Doing and being, but maybe we get a feeling of that, you know. But when we're meditating, we're just trying to have a real appreciation of being. When it comes to the body, we always have a breathing body, don't we? When it stops being breathing body, we're dead, aren't we? As long as we're alive, we've got a breathing body. This is part of the fundamental situation. We're trying to sit in such a way that we have appreciation that breathing body that we have is always intimate with everything else in the world. You know, we're always intimately involved in the world just through having this breathing body. And we can relax. And when we relax, what needs to happen psychically will happen, in a sense, under its own momentum, under its own energy. We're trying to stop a kind of manipulation. The Tibetans sometimes call this, we stop confecting, you know, we stop trying to put things together, make some kind of sense of it, and we just leave things alone. And they will say, well, when we leave things alone with love and awareness, openness, they self-liberate. You know? They find our own expression and liberation through being, for us, making this gesture of openness. Anyway, good luck with all that. Okay, so let's do some practice together. So in the end, that's what we're doing, isn't it? So get yourselves comfortable. Clear your throats. Next. Yes. Just start with the sounds around you today, just being aware of whatever sounds are. And just notice the nature of sound. It just appears spontaneously in awareness, doesn't it? So we're not particularly, don't have to strain ourselves to hear. Hopefully, anyway. Sort of external sounds, aren't there? Maybe there's some awareness of some internal sound of your own body. Sound is a great friend to the meditator because it's always happening in the moment, isn't it? Of course, we can remember sound, but the exception, isn't it? I take in being aware of sound, but at least in the moment. Yeah. It also has this quality of being both the sound from the outside, of course, it's happening out there, isn't it? It's happening in the world. It's also happening in your awareness. And this is the same for all of our experiences, isn't it? It happens in our awareness. And our awareness, in a sense, is as open as the world. Sometimes think of our awareness sort of inside of us, but of course it extends, doesn't it, into the field of awareness. So we know the sound is happening out there in the world, but we also know it's happening inside of us. Of course, this is the same for everything we experience. Sensation in our body is happening in our leg, but it's also happening in our awareness, isn't it? The car going past outside is happening out there and happening in our awareness. Let your face relax. The great thing about meditation, really, there's always something very simple you can do. Even if you feel confused or upset, there's always very simple things you can do. You can just unlock your jaw, or release the holding in your thighs, or soften your hands, or feel into your spine, feel your belly moving, When we come into this sensitivity towards our own experience, there's always something you can do. Softening and releasing is a better way than trying to think yourself out of something. Of course, there's a place for thinking about things and analyzing things, but that's not what we're doing when we're meditating. Different practice that might come in with contemplation to some extent. Generally, meditation is this kind of radical non-interference that we stop trying to manipulate our experience. We're just trying to release while maintaining a posture of awareness and love, making this basic gesture towards the world through the posture. Everything expresses itself in the world, doesn't it? We see a magnificent tree or a cat walking across the road. Everything's expressing itself in the world all the time. When you sit, you express yourself in the world in a very particular way. We can use our imagination to stabilize the basic situation. So we imagine through the sensations of contact in our buttocks and our legs, whatever part of your body that's in contact with the earth. You see sensations. Be aware that you're sitting on the earth. And you can allow yourself just to have a felt sense. Allow yourself to imagine the earth as it is, deep and broad, holding. The sense of a gap between the crown of your head and the ceiling, and then by extension, sense of the sky above you. Sense of the room that you're sitting in, particular shape and space, and that you're taking up a particular shape and space within that. These are all kind of basic ways of just being located, as it were. Just finding some ground, this basic ground. A soft base. Finding your breath, which is always waiting for you. Always available for you. Once you make a really felt relationship with your breath. It'll be there for you all the time. Maybe just notice where the in-breath starts, as it were. What's the first sensation in your body when you breathe in? The little how does the body prepare for the breath? There's some activity down there, isn't there? And quite low in the body, below the navel. Maybe you can even feel it right down in the perineum. Before the air touches your nostril, there's a little sort of catch down low in your body as your body prepares to breathe in. And the sensation of the breath as you breathe down, it kind of comes up from below, doesn't it? Breathe in and there's a kind of energetic movement upwards from the root, right up through the belly, through the chest, through the throat. Anyway, this is I'm just going on what it feels like for me, but possibly it feels quite different for you. To just be interested in the subtlety of the sensation, kind of below the physical mechanics of it, the rib cage moving, the diaphragm moving, the scapulars, back expanding, broadening, subtle movement in the spine. There's a kind of energetics of breathing, isn't there, that you might be able to relax into. This is usually very pleasant when we start to really notice the sort of subtle energy of breathing underlying the physicality. This is the sort of beginnings of, well, I suppose technically it's rapture, I think, rather than bliss, but in the beginnings of really enjoying your body breathing. Bodies like to breathe, yeah, this is what bodies do. They like to breathe. You can have a sense of your body breathing in the world, with subtle enjoyment within the body, this open awareness. Relax your hands a little bit. Feel the hands breathe a little bit, don't they? Everything feels a little bit different on the in breath than it does on the out breath. I'm not actually asking you to be kind of analytical about this. Like, I might hope it doesn't sound like that, but it's much more a matter of just relaxing and enjoying what is there for you. just notice what's happening, and if you sort of collapse into your thinking mode, just open up a bit. Don't have to stop anything, but just let it happen in the context of your breathing body and the context of the world, so you're not sort of collapsing into one part of yourself, but a small part of your awareness is Buddha says the thatch is leaking, open up the thatch. Open up. Air on your face. And imagine that your heart or your belly is the center. Awareness into the far as it's got a center. And your thinking mind is just sort of happening on the periphery of the mandala of your body. You don't have to worry too much about it. You don't have to give it any particular privileged position. So in your own time, you can move to a resting. And you can imagine the other people is quite not together, are we, in a physical sense, but it's quite sweet to think of all of you laying down and resting. Anyway, just move to a resting posture. Just laying still for a few more moments as you recollect yourself, remember yourself. And then when you're ready, making that transition back to sitting, disturbing yourself more than necessary, doing a nice, simple way, maybe using your breath as a bridge, one posture to the next, just being aware of your breath as you move. Taking your seat, spending the time you need just to get the posture, or just sit together for a while. You can have some awareness of the other people sitting with you, sense of love for yourself, a sense of solidarity with the other people, whatever seems appropriate for you. A black image framed in silver, worn to shreds by kisses. A black image framed in silver, worn to shreds by kisses. All around the image, the white silver, worn to shreds by kisses. The very metal, worn to shreds by kisses. Framed in metal, the black image, worn to shreds by kisses. Oh, the darkness, worn to shreds by kisses. The darkness in our eyes, worn to shreds by kisses. All we wished for, worn to shreds by kisses. All we never wished for, kissed and worn to shreds by kisses. All we escaped from, worn to shreds by kisses. All we wished for, kissed and kissed again. just being aware of what's happening. Just sitting there thinking about something, trying to encourage yourself, get your attention somewhere else, just down into your body, and just sitting in the world with other people. All that thinking can wait. It's not gonna, you don't have to sort things out now. We don't have to be on guard against thoughts. They can just come and go like everything else. It's just we don't want to get exclusively involved in them. They're the most important thing in the world. A few more minutes of just sitting with a sense of your breathing body, sitting with these other breathing bodies in this virtual space that we've been sharing. I'd like to imagine a connection from the heart center, the heart centers of other people. Okay, so we'll leave it there for this morning. Whatever time it is for you, and be back later. Hope you can make it. And in the meantime, have a nice, relaxing time if you can. Malvin to Chandra Das, if you want to say anything before he goes. He's off back to America now. So thanks to him for asking me to do this and being here, hosting it. So see you later. Yeah, bye.